الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My name is Dr. Gamal Musa. I'm a consultant psychiatrist in Beautiful Mind Medical Center with 28 years experience in working in Sheikh Khalifa Medical City Behavioral Science Pavilion before. First of all, I want to thank the conference committee to give me the chance to be here, welcoming your participation in that event. This event is actually a unique one. It's not only hybrid, it's not only on live and on site, but it also includes merge of two conferences together. The 14th World Congress of World Association of Psychosocial Rehabilitation, WAPR, and the 7th Abu Dhabi International Mental Health Conference. So you are lucky to attend similar conference. I don't think it can be repeated anywhere at any time. Now we have to start, and the best to start with the Holy Quran and national themes. And it will be followed by a short video about Abu Dhabi Emirate as a source of tourism. Let us start now.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما وينصرك الله نصرا عزيزا هو الذي أنزل السكينة في قلوب المؤمنين ليزدادوا إيمانا مع إيمانهم ولله جنود السماوات والأرض وكان الله عليما حكيما.
time to listen to the man behind arranging that event. Full energetic person, honest. No impossible. Medhat has no impossible. He can do whatever is to be done. If Medhat didn't, it's a time to listen to Dr. Medhat Sabbahi. Medhat Sabbahi is a consultant psychiatrist, and in the same time, he is a conference chair. He is a member of World Association of Psychosocial Rehabilitation. He is the head of the Psychiatric Rehabilitation Division. Medhat, I can't add more than that. I can't add. If I can talk for Medhat for hours, I will not finish. Let us listen to Medhat and see how he say. Please show me in welcoming Medhat Sabbahi.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, dear Dr. Jamal, for introducing me and introducing the opening ceremony. I think this was a gesture to say thank you for a man who worked in here in Emirate of Abu Dhabi for more than 30 years, serving the UAE country. Dr. Jamal was Dr. Zain Amara, the founder of New Psychiatry Era in Abu Dhabi. And some of us were working with them to have some new vision of psychiatry. To thank more, I need to thank Dr. Aisha Duferi, the medical director of Behavioral Sciences Pavilion, who insisted that I chair this conference. And the norm is that she is the chair of that conference, but she insisted to let me be the chair of the conference. I'd like to thank United Arab Emirates for providing all the opportunities to make the best thing in the world. 3 years ago, I spoke to colleagues in Madrid, promising them to show them the hospitality, the Arabian hospitality. And that was based on our belief that this country, government and people are always striving to present the best. And I'm quite sure that the best hospitality that you ever see will be in Emirates. By this, I thank all the people who are behind my success. My wife, my family, they put me forward to, and they gave all their time to me to support me to be helpful to this country that we love. We love Emirates. We're honored to be part of this country, and we're always emerged with their hospitality and their concern. So this is words from the heart to you. And then, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear colleagues and friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Scientific and Organizing Committee, it is a moment of pride and pleasure for us to welcome you all to the 14th World Congress of World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation and 7th Abu Dhabi International Mental Health Conference from 9th to 11th of December in our beautiful city, Abu Dhabi. On behalf of the WAPR Executive Board, board members, advisory board, scientific and organizing committees, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of our guest speakers and participants from all over the world. I'd like to thank Dr. Ghanem Al-Hassani and the Academic Affair of Sahha to support us. And I'd like to thank Dr. Safan Mustafa, the CEO of SKMC, to support us. This Congress will never be possible to succeed without their support. The theme of this World Congress is mental health rights, equity, recovery, and social inclusion in testing times, which typically describes the situations that we are, the challenges that we are facing nowadays. And because of this difficulties that we have with the new variant of the COVID-19, We are having all the colleagues, many of the colleagues online because they couldn't come in. The 14th World Congress will convene more than 5,000 international experts attending physically and virtually. We have more than 800 people registered physically and more than 4,500 online attendees from various spheres of mental profession, psychiatrists, psychologists, occupational therapists, social workers, social educators, public health, as well as government and security, community sectors, leaders, to open a dialogue, to build connections, to increase knowledge, to exchange best practices, and to deliver a concerted stance on mental health and maintenance. Scientific program includes 4 tracks and will be presented by 3 thematic fields, including prevention and promotion of mental health, treatment and rehabilitation in mental health care, the human rights and mental health. Keynote speeches delivered by experts and executive will be followed by panel discussions, symposia, and workshops. The Congress will allow ample opportunities for participants to network, collaborate, and share ideas to enhance the quality and safety of practices for mental care provided globally. We are grateful to our guest speakers for your time and efforts. The number of speakers, more than 200, as I mentioned, whose work has been well recognized, confirms the importance of this meeting. And more importantly, it is a further evidence of the considerable momentum of building up regional and international cooperation. I'd like also to express my gratefulness and appreciation to WAPR, Abu Dhabi Department of Culture and Tourism, Convention and Exhibition Peru, Mr. Mubarak, Lindsay, and Mr. Baha. Thank you for your support. And specifically for Lindsay and Erit and Melissa, your support all over the last 7 years is behind this success. Of course, Saha, Abu Dhabi Healthcare Services Company, and Behavioral Science Pavilion and SKMC should be thanked for all their efforts. And all the other supporting organizations for your gracious support. Without you, this Congress would not have been possible. I would like to express my heartiest gratitude to all the members of the Executive Committee, Scientific Committee, Organizing Committee, and Advisory Board, who has been fastidious with the content and presentation of the scientific program. And as we work together to map out our future plans, I'm sure that the recommendation you may conclude during this Congress will make a true difference. We deeply appreciate the support from our sponsors in providing unrestricted educational grants and being our partners in expanding the audience. To MENA Conference, Mr. Khalid and colleagues, we thank you for your professionalism, for your going the extra mile from the preparation, during the Congress, and even after the conclusion of the event. Most of all, I'd like to thank each and every delegate for enriching the Congress with your presence. We hope this meeting will be of great benefit to you all. We also hope and trust that you will enjoy the 3 days of insightful program. I would look forward to greeting you face-to-face at next year Mental Health Conference in our beautiful city of Abu Dhabi. Wishing you a fruitful and knowledgeful conference with the common goal of advancing and developing not only the field, but the careers of all participants. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Medhat, for your word. Also, I want to say this unique event wasn't being able to be held without support and help from Sheikh Khalifa Medical City. Dr. Safa Al-Mustafa is the acting CEO, Sheikh Khalifa Medical City, Abu Dhabi. Want to welcome you personally for your participation. Please join me to say welcoming Dr. Safa.
Thank you, Doctor. First, before I start my speech, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think I'm really honored to have my speech for the first physical attending. Today is my first conference since COVID pandemic started to be attended by physically, not virtually. inshallah, it will be a successful conference and Congress. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity for me to give my speech. Thank you. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me a great pleasure to extend to you all a very warm welcome to 14th World Congress of World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation and the 7th Abu Dhabi International Mental Health Conference. The 3 days Congress to feature an array of experts and distinguished speakers across the globe. It is an opportune time to renew contacts and discuss practice of mutual interest with experts and delegates from all over the world. UAE healthcare system consists of independent healthcare subsystems, and integration toward a comprehensive information technology healthcare system is a priority. Abu Dhabi Health Service company, Saha, is the leading participant in the reform of Abu Dhabi's healthcare sector. Our goal is to upgrade and improve healthcare delivery to the public at a level comparable to the finest healthcare system in the world. Saha's mission is to transform our healthcare system services to the highest medical quality and customer care international standards. The vision of Saha is leading integrated, outstanding healthcare services with the highest international quality and safety standards. In light of all this wide range of achievements and advancements, we are proud to add a mental health Congress to our high priorities and focus. We do believe that providing best care for our patients is the drive behind all our activities. Mental health service is an integral part of our practice in Saha and Sheikh Khalifa Medical City. Continuous achievements and enhancement they have made in patient care. We strive to optimize to the highest level. We feel proud of our mental health team. At the same time, we strive to share our knowledge with colleagues from around the world and benefit from their experience. I'm certain that this scientific event will be an inspiration for our healthcare professionals to keep abreast of the latest developments in psychosocial rehabilitation and mental health in order to drive quality and safety as well as enhance patient experience. Again, I welcome you all to the UAE, Abu Dhabi, and to this big event, wishing you all beneficial and great time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Safa, and we are sure that under your advice and support, mental health will achieve your target. One hand is not enough. Two hands is better than one. The support for this conference, as I said, unique one, was not only by SKMC, it was also by Saha. Saha is also add a good support to hold this event. Dr. Ghanem El-Hassani will represent Saha. He's a chair of local scientific committee and the director of the academic affair in Saha. Dr. Ghanem, please share us in that start. And all of you, please share me to welcome Dr. Hassan.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السادة الحضور، أصحاب السعادة، المتحدثين الكرام، أود أن أرحب بكم في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة في إمارة أبو ظبي، حيث يعقد المؤتمر العالمي للمنظمة العالمية للتأهيل النفسي والاجتماعي لأول مرة في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، حيث يعقد هذا المؤتمر بالشراكة مع شركة أبو ظبي للخدمات الصحية والقطاع الخاص وكذلك الجهات الحكومية المختلفة، مما يؤكد على أهمية مختلف القطاعات في دعم ورفض القطاع الصحي في العالم. يعقد هذا المؤتمر ودولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة تحتفل بهذه المناسبة، مناسبة مرور 50 عاما على الاتحاد، وكذلك ودولة الإمارات تحتضن إكسبو 2020. نود أن نؤكد على أن القطاع الصحي في دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة وهو يتعافى من أزمة كوفيد-19 أكد على أهمية القطاعات الصحية المختلفة، وعلى رأسها القطاع الصحي النفسي. فيأتي هذا المؤتمر للتأكيد على أهمية جميع المتخصصين لدعم المرضى وكذلك المجتمع، وكذلك لدعم خط الدفاع الأول في التعافي من كوفيد-19. أرحب بكم وأتوجه بالشكر لجميع الجهات المشاركة، وكذلك لجميع الجهات المنظمة والكوميتيز المختلفة التي شاركت في إخراج هذا المؤتمر. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, our distinguished guest, I would like to welcome you to Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. This conference of World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation is happening in a very unique time where United Arab Emirates is celebrating their 50th anniversary, and also we are also hosting Expo 2020. The world is going through major challenge, COVID-19. Medical health and care sectors have been going through a major challenge, and I think mental health is an integral part of medical care sector. And I think we have been proven to be a very great support, not only to our patient, but for also our frontliners who have been working for challenging COVID-19, and I think for also our community. I would like to welcome you all to this event. I would like also to thank all our colleagues who supported to make this a successful event that takes place in Abu Dhabi. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Ghanem. As we mentioned, we are attending two conferences in the same way. First of all, it's the 14th World Congress of World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation, WAPR, and 7th Abu Dhabi International Health Conference. Dr. Gabriel Roca is the President-elect of World Association Psychosocial Rehabilitation, will share us in that start. Dr. Gabriel is a psychiatrist and at the same time is a psychotherapist. Since 2096, he has been teaching the postgraduate school of psychotherapy in Padova. And since 2020, he is the health director of Solaris Social Enterprise. The field of interest of Dr. Roca is history of psychiatry and rehabilitation models in psychiatric care community. Please join me to welcoming Dr. Gabriel for his speech.
Good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Abu Dhabi, this country that decided to host our Congress. And then I am very happy to be here in this beautiful country and to realize this very important result, our World Congress. And then I am very happy and honored to be here at the opening session of the 14th World Congress of the WAPR and the 7th Abu Dhabi International Conference on Mental Health. I would like to thank the Executive Committee of the WAPR, the Scientific Committee of the Congress, and a special thanks to Professor Medhat El-Sabbahy for the great work, for the great effort that made such an important event possible. A non-formal thanks, because we were very worried, but he was able to obtain, to reach this great result. And non-formal thanks because after the WAPR World Congress in Madrid, after the national conferences in Manchester, Athens, and Bangalore in 2019, we lived through the years marked by the COVID-19 pandemic, by lockdowns, by isolation. And there were our conferences, our meetings that are so important for the history and for the identity of our association. The mission of the WAPR is the dissemination of principles and practices of psychosocial rehabilitation, defined as process that facilitate the opportunity for people with mental health problems to reach their optimal level of functioning in the community. It implies both improving individual competencies and introducing environmental changes in order to improve their quality of life. If this is our task, it will be increasingly challenging as people experiencing mental health problems and their families are in great difficulty. Services have become poorer. The economic conditions of the most vulnerable parts of society have worsened. Growing inequalities affect the weakest social groups and play fundamental role as determinants of mental disorders. The Congress can be an opportunity for debate on these issues. It can collect studies and experiences that come from different areas of the world and can allow a meeting which I think will be fruitful between professionals who ask themselves how to meet the needs of users and their families. The depth of the crisis we are going through requires decisive changes in the way of dealing with people suffering, of organized mental health services, and of relate to institutions. We have the opportunity, and I believe the duty, to make relevant choices such as the crisis we are experiencing. The respect of human rights, the adoption of evidence-based interventions, the fight against stigma, and the involvement of users in the decisions that concern them must not remain declarations of principle, but must become the fundamental inspiring principle of clinical activity. I hope that this Congress will help us to become aware of the important phase we are experiencing and of the commitment that is required of us. To do it, we have symposium, lectures, workshops, oral presentation during 3 days of a very significant debate. Have a good Congress.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. As I said before, World Association of Psychosocial Rehabilitation conference here is also give support and share. Another share from their side through a welcome message from Professor Suleiman Ratman, the Secretary General of World Association of Psychosocial Rehabilitation, and Dr. Ricardo. Dr. Suleiman is the past president of the African Association of Psychiatrists, and he has specific interest in addiction psychiatry and child adolescent psychiatry. And Dr. Ricardo is working in psychiatric therapeutic community since 1984 and in day hospital for adolescents since 1988. Very good experience in that fields. He's worked as a psychotherapist and general manager from 2001-2010 and the medical director up to 2018. Please join me in welcoming the two eminent in our presentation.
And colleagues, members of the World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation, as the Secretary General of the World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation for the past 6 years, I really want to bid you farewell as I work towards leaving this post. However, I welcome you to the 14th Congress of the World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation. This Congress was developed and planned under very difficult circumstances because of COVID-19. However, I want to congratulate the local organizing committee, Dr. Medhat and the team, our president, Professor Morali, and also the president-elect, Dr. Gabriele Roca, for assisting in making sure that this conference becomes a reality. Many of us would have liked to be there personally, physically, and enjoy the hospitality of Abu Dhabi. However, because of travel restrictions, we are limited to joining the conference virtually. We have a very rich program that shows that psychosocial rehabilitation is a reality and it's important in all societies, and it's got to be taught throughout our training of students in all categories of those who are involved with mental health care. This is my statement, wishing you well in the Congress, and hopefully that you'll participate every day. After the Congress, please send us comments about what you feel, what you think the way forward should be. But what is very clear, because we don't know how long COVID-19 will last, this is going to be a reality for a number of years to come. So we have to adapt to doing our conferences virtually in a hybrid form, in which case a few people will be on site, but the majority of people will be joining online. Thank you very much for attending, and welcome to Abu Dhabi.
Good morning, distinguished authorities, chair of the conference, members of the organizing and scientific committees, members of WAPR and branches, organizers and delegates. It is indeed a great honor to welcome you all in this very special 14th World Congress of WAPR and 7th Abu Dhabi Mental Health Conference. This event comes immediately after our Madrid Congress in 2018, which I had the honor to organize all along with my colleagues in Spain and the support of WAPR globally, and represents the continuity and the update of the psychosocial rehabilitation model philosophy of attention that we defend for the attention of the mentally ill. This conference is indeed very special in its characteristics. It has been unprecedentedly organized through and under the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemics that has dramatically affected our lives and conditioned our professional practices globally. It is the first World Conference in WAPR story that is celebrated in the Middle East region, and is the first one that is hybrid, with both delegates that attend physically and others that attend virtually by electronic mails. So these characteristics make this encounter very special. Let me invite you all to enjoy all the sessions, presentations, and fruitful discussions, and join me in compliments to organizers under the wise direction of Dr. Medhat El-Sabahi that have been able to address so many difficulties and novelties. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing us, Dr. Soliman and Dr. Ricardo. Now is the time of appreciation. The committee of the event are appreciating the share and support from different facilities. Now it's time for appreciation. Please, Dr. Aisha and Dr. Gabriel, come to the stage to share us in that appreciation consideration. Yes, please. The committee will offer some trophies for their side as a sort of appreciation for sharing in that conference. First of all, Dr. Safa, please, can you come to the stage to take your trophies for Sheikh Khalifa Medical City? Appreciation and consideration. Dr. Ghanem, please, can you come to the stage to share appreciation from the committee to Saha sharing and support. Dr. Gabriel already in the stage, and we are appreciate your sharing to us. There was a big hands-on support from Abu Dhabi Tourism. They add a lot of support and help for that conference. They are represented by Ms. Lindsay Frazian and Mr. Baha Okasha. Please come to the stage for appreciation. Help and support also was added from Arab Federation. We appreciate their support. Dr. Midhat Sabahi will receive the trophies for their share and support. Thank you, Dr. Aisha. Thank you, Dr. Ricardo. Back to our line. Now, we are proud and appreciate the annual sharing of our eminent professor of psychiatry in our Arab world, Professor Ahmed Okasha, President of World Psychiatric Association 2002-2005, and he is the Director of WHO Collaboration Center for Research and Training in Mental Health, Professor and Founder Okasha Institute of Psychiatry, Ain Shams University, Advisor to the Egyptian President for Mental Health and Community Integration. If I will list the all CV of Dr. Okasha, I don't think we'll go home today. You will stay till the end of the day if we try to add more. Please, share me to welcoming Dr. Okasha in his presentation. He will go through Honorary President Address Abu Dhabi International Mental Health. Please share me in welcoming Dr. Okasha for his share.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues. As you see, everybody is speaking about benefits of the future of digital psychiatry, but my talk will be the benefits and risks of the future of digital psychiatry. And of course, because of the conference, we shall focus a bit on the rehabilitation. This is some words of truth about COVID currently. I've opened for finding today. The world population now is 7.9 billion. The total COVID cases in the world is 257 million. The total COVID deaths is 5.15 million. The number of people who got COVID is 3.2% of the population of the world. The number of people who die from COVID is only 2%. Chances of getting COVID and dying is 0.06%. Of course, rehabilitation will minimize the suffering of COVID and post-COVID illness. We have to remember that in 1719, plague was present worldwide with millions of people dying. 1819, it's cholera. The Spanish flu was in 1919, and millions again have died. And now, in the COVID is 2019. It's very peculiar that every 100 years, we have a pandemic. This is a summary points related to common digital health technologies in mental health. The technology, for instance, the digitally delivered psychological therapies. And it has many uses, as you see in the slide: self-management of symptoms of depression and anxiety. And the future potential is precision intervention, preventive treatment. And the key issue is lack of engagement, saturated consumer marketplace, claims outpacing clinical evidence. The priority actions is establishing evidence-based for use in people with diagnosed mental disorders. Then we have the smartphone data, active and passive. And this is tracking mood and lifestyle in people with major depression, bipolar disorder, and psychosis. The future potential is the machine learning towards individualized risk prediction delivery and of targeted just-in-time interventions. Key issues: there is lack of validation across studies establishing trust around data usage. And then the priority actions is data standards for interoperability and validation, industry, academic partnerships around access. Then we have the social media. Everybody of you know about how it affects the use of digital technology, the virtual reality, which is the exposure therapy. Then lastly, the chatbots. That's to say, I'll just have 2 slides about the chatbots. It's conversational agents like Apple's Series or Amazon Alexa have become common in the digital marketplace. The term chatbots is the use of these conversational style interfaces offers an intelligent automated system for detecting and responding to immediate mental health needs. Chatbots have the look and feeling of interacting with a human, despite being run by an automated software program. And robot therapists, chatbots or robot therapists are people who are going to speak, become a galvanizing force for those seeking to automate therapy, where software programs listen and respond to people's mental health needs. That's to say, they speak on the telephone and they have the answer according to their complaint. While the words robot therapist conjure images of a physical robot, most are actually text-based, although animated video and even physical robot versions have been researched. I'm going to give you a summary about the risks that will happen. The new technological capabilities of smartphones, artificial intelligence, social media, and virtual reality are already changing mental health care in unforeseen and exciting ways. Despite its advantages, telepsychiatry is not a panacea, and there are potential risks that must be considered. Just to enumerate them: how will digital psychiatry reach those most in need in community settings? The inequalities of an already unfair education system, even worse, as children in low-income households disproportionately lack access to devices and high-speed internet. How will digital psychiatry reach these kids and their parents? Confidentiality breaches might seriously impair public cooperation in big data projects. We should consider issues of racism, economic inequalities, safeties, and failing of healthcare systems when designing new studies. There is an inevitable risk of being unable to respond to psychiatric emergencies in a timely manner. Again, patients with schizophrenia are known to have cognitive impairments, which may hinder their ability to engage with telepsychiatry. People experiencing homelessness may also be disproportionately excluded from accessing appropriate care and interventions if largely delivered virtually. When delivering telepsychiatric care, there are legal implications related to jurisdiction, forensic psychiatry, and confirmation of identity. Again, the lack of intimate therapeutic relationship. Identity fraud is another legal concern. And again, how can we proceed with involuntary treatment through telepsychiatry? As you know, the United Nations Convention have now made the statement that psychiatry, with all its disorders, is a disability. And those people with disability, according to the reports of the United Nations, should never be treated involuntarily, which makes the involuntary treatment, according to human rights, not a very humane thing for people with disability. Of course, the World Psychiatric Association disagree about this, and all psychiatrists who work know that there are some patients who need involuntary treatment. But here we are. Lastly, we can practice digital psychiatry in rehabilitation of mental disorders, and the digital technologies for innovative mental health rehabilitation. We have to design and develop innovative rehabilitation techniques, particularly focusing on mental health rehabilitation and contributing for the promotion of well-being and health from a holistic perspective. Serious games and virtual reality allows for creation of immersive environments that contribute to a more effective and lasting recovery with improvements in terms of quality of life. Use of digital, the rehabilitation of GID disorders in patients with multiple sclerosis and stroke is often based on conventional treadmill training. But VR-based treadmill training can increase motivation and improve therapy outcomes. This study addresses the use of digital technologies, namely VR, GBL, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and advanced data analytics in the development of innovative rehabilitation techniques, contributing to the promotion of well-being and health in a holistic perspective, focusing mainly on mental health rehabilitation in people diagnosed on the schizophrenic spectrum, for instance. Compared to the traditional cognitive social therapies, which last an average of 6 months to show results, the use of VR in these interventions proved to be effective since it only took 5 weeks to demonstrate positive effects. The experience cannot exacerbate symptoms. As such, it is important to design experiences that don't provide any unexpected stimuli or effects that could be misinterpreted as a continuation for the patient's hallucinations. This table shows you psychiatric rehabilitation through teaching smartphone skills to improve functional outcomes in serious mental illness. The study measured the impact of digital competencies and skill scores of participants with serious mental illness. Close to 75% of participants reported an improvement in smartphone-related skills, and the majority of participants that reported improvement in one skill reported improvement in at least one other. Quantitative or qualitative feedback suggests how skills acquired by patients were immediately utilized to gain insights into health and support functional outcomes. Smartphone skills groups are a means to provide practical psychiatric rehabilitation that may enable some patients to compensate for cognitive and social deficits due to illness. Now, if we take the things that I've mentioned before, in a bit more detailed things, the risk of privacy and confidentiality. This should be explained to patients, along with the limitations of the safeguards that are in place to prevent breaches. Patients should be advised to engage in consultations in a private space, as confidential information may be discernible to individuals in their proximity. When delivering telepsychiatric care, there are legal implications related to jurisdiction. Confirmation of identity and identity fraud is another legal concern. There are also implications regarding involuntary admission and collaborative arrangements with law enforcement, health and social services to facilitate them. There is an inevitable risk of being unable to respond to psychiatric emergencies in a timely manner. Virtual health platforms inherently carry this risk, and with advice that clinicians should ensure there is consistency in where the patient is located during session, along with having access to emergency contact information. If you need more information, you have to have a friend or a family member of the patient and knowledge of local resources in the event of crisis, police, emergency, medical services, which is a real handicap in application of digital psychiatry without seeing the patient. How will clinics strapped for cash and time afford to implement complex new technologies into their daily routine and infrastructure? And will they even want to? Can the all-important therapeutic alliance between clinicians and service users operate in digital environments? And if so, how? Especially with children. A recent survey of suicide risk prediction tools across national health services in Britain shows clearly how new tools can fall flat clinically and is a warning sign for the hurdles digital psychiatry will likely face in real world settings. How will digital psychiatry reach those most in need in the community settings? For instance, in New York City, one of the world's wealthiest cities, mandatory virtual learning during COVID-19 lockdown have made the inequalities of an already unfair education system even worse, as children in low-income households disproportionately lack access to devices and high-speed internet. How will digital psychiatry reach these kids and their parents? Protected service users. How can we protect the service users by digital psychiatry? 2 years ago, in an editorial on digital health, that while it's never have been easier to collect new mental health data, it's also never been easier to have them sold or stolen. The real risk is that data commercialization and hacks have for service users. Digital psychiatry doesn't have the luxury of assuming bigger database that are necessarily a good thing. Confidentiality breaches might seriously impair public data and the risks and safety to be fully studied and tested before new technology is implemented. All branches of mental health research need to better consider issues of racism, economic inequalities, safeties, and failing health system when designing new studies. There are huge unmet needs in psychiatry. There is an acute shortage of psychiatrists and therapists in virtually every country, even in the developed countries. And in the USA, the shortage is even more dramatic than like in poorer countries. This means that there is a wide range of potential uses of artificial intelligence in psychiatry, possibly even including the diagnosis and treatment of people with mental disorders. But what do psychiatrists think about the future role of artificial intelligence technology in their field? Just to remind you that 30 years ago, the Human Genome Project offered hope. Instead, it revealed that there is no single gene for depression or bipolar or any other mental disorder. The advent of new neuroimaging techniques got great excitement, but that excitement has not translated into clinically useful biomarkers. So the two scientific researchers, whether artificial intelligence, the Gene Project, and the neuroimaging, they didn't have any clinical useful biomarkers of anything. More than 200 studies have used machine learning algorithms to distinguish between brain differences between people with and without particular disorders such as Alzheimer's disease, schizophrenia, depression, and even autism and attention deficit disorder. They have always the same genes producing mental disorders. So these findings have been able to make the leap to clinical care. One limitation is that even neuroimaging creates a snapshot of a person's brain activity at a particular moment in time. And as Summer Allen said, I notice with myself the way my brain functions in the morning when I wake up is very different than after I have a cup of coffee. It's very different than at night before I go to sleep. So this is the neuroimaging related to the discovery of mental disorders. The burden of mental disorders hasn't been matched by the appropriate resources and services necessary to treat them, resulting in a large mental health treatment gap. There is hope that digital psychiatry can bridge this gap, improving access to treatment and hence outcomes for people with mental disorders. Evidence supports the use of digital psychiatry as a feasible platform, acceptable to users as well as effective in improving outcomes and quality of life across a variety of mental disorders. Literature is primarily based on mood and anxiety disorders with an underrepresentation of psychosis. The intervention modality most commonly used in digital mental health studies is cognitive behavioral therapy. Telepsychiatry has contributed to develop over the past 2 decades, with evidence supporting its equivalence to face care with regards to therapeutic alliance and patient satisfaction. Evidence from systemic review and meta-analysis have indicated that treatment effects are largely equivalent when both approaches are compared. There is a potential pitfalls of digital psychiatry. Despite the advantages, telepsychiatry is not a panacea, and there are potential harms that must be considered. And there is the data breaches and compromise to patients' confidentiality and privacy are concerned. The use of virtual platforms with built-in data, encryption, تشفير, adware and malware protection, البرمجيات الخبيثة, as well as firewalls, جدران الحماية, has been endorsed as a means to mitigate risks of data breaches. The risks to privacy and confidentiality should be clearly explained to patients with the limitations of the safeguards that are in place to prevent breaches. When delivering psychiatric or telepsychiatric care, there are legal implications related to jurisdiction where provision of care must be restricted to the province or state that the practitioner is licensed in. And confirmation of identity and identity fraud is another legal concern of great importance. The same with the involuntary admission. We have to take into consideration so many inevitable risks of being unable to respond to psychiatric emergencies in a timely manner. It's very difficult to have help and information from the patient for involuntary treatment through telepsychiatry unless you have face-to-face interview. All virtual health platforms inherently carry this risk. So, clinicians should ensure there is consistency in where the patient is located during the session. There are barriers. The most important is the access to internet and smartphones. Otherwise, it will be treatment for the rich countries and rich people or middle-class people, leaving the majority of people having inability to approach these systems. And as I mentioned before, that the cognitive impairment of schizophrenia may hinder their ability to engage with telepsychiatry. People with homelessness, even in the best countries, and in some countries, there are millions of people who are homeless. Of course, they can't have an access to internet or smartphones or all these things. They'll be completely neglected with the generalization of digital psychiatry. Telepsychiatry is not one size fits all. There are some patients who are not suitable for virtual care. And although telepsychiatry has been reported to be effective in addiction medicine, for instance, there are no reports to our knowledge on the use of virtual platforms for individuals with the internet and game addiction, for instance. Reluctance to accept telepsychiatry has been centered around the building of rapport and therapeutic relationship. And this is, I believe, that in psychiatry you need an intimate therapeutic relationship to have a sort of a dialogue between you and the patient with empathy, warm feelings, and so on. Of course, the computer cannot give you this. Of course, in rich countries, they can have phone booths equipped with built-in tablet devices that would allow individuals with access to digital platforms to engage. But I don't think you can have this in poor countries. Virtual walk-in centers can be also developed in allocating spaces in hospitals and walk-in centers where patients can utilize designated computers or tablet devices. Of course, this is a very difficult approach unless very sophisticated people can do it. So, as I mentioned before, that this addresses health inequality in the future, where digital platforms are likely to form a large part of healthcare delivery. The common mental health disorders are rising globally, creating a certain strain on public health systems. One result is that this interest in the development of the use of artificial intelligence for assessing diagnosis and treating mental issues, which we refer to as digital psychiatry. As you see, the title here, the studies showed represents timely information on psychiatrists' views about the scope of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Psychiatrists express divergent views about the value and impact of future technology, with the worrying omissions about practice guidelines and ethical and regulatory issues. Media and the role of digital psychiatry in mental health. The mass media is largely regarded as an integral cogwheel in health service delivery with a decisive influence on public attitudes. Many studies identify connections between media use and negative outcomes such as increased depression, suicide, anxiety, substance use, aggressive behavior, obesity, and eating disorders. Digital tools in psychiatry may promote change and improve health service delivery, augment the clinical relationship, and influence the dynamic relationship between mass media depictions of mental illness and the public understanding. To conclude here, the new technological capabilities of smartphones, artificial intelligence, social media, and virtual reality are already changing mental health care in unforeseen and exciting ways, each accompanied by an early but promising evidence base. However, many risks are encountered as we cannot rely only on digital technology. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dr. Akasha, for raising that issue. Actually, we have to consider development of life. Technology is part of our life now. Psychiatry can't be away from that. So we are expecting artificial intelligence and computerization electronics will be adding a lot to psychiatric service. Psychiatric service usually consider and respect humanity and the human rights. Dr. Michel Frank will start opening remark about WHO quality rights. Dr. Michel is the unit head of WHO policy, law, and human rights team. She leads WHO Quality Rights Initiative, which build capacity of stakeholders to understand and promote human rights and recovery approaches. And she adds support for the countries to develop service policies and laws in line with international human rights standards. Please join me welcoming Dr. Michel for her speech.
Colleagues, it is a great pleasure to have been invited to deliver a video message at this World Conference. I thank the organisers very much for this invitation. I'd like to start by saying that although we have witnessed a growing awareness of the need to improve mental health services over the last 2 decades, the collective response has been inadequate. Partly, this is due to lack of investment in mental health, but equally, it is due to outdated legal policy and service frameworks that failed to align with international human rights standards and requirements. The COVID-19 pandemic that we now face has only served to highlight and compound the inadequate and outdated nature of mental health systems and services worldwide. It has brought to light the damaging effects of institutions, lack of cohesive social networks, the isolation and marginalization of many individuals with mental health conditions, along with the insufficient and fragmented nature of community mental health services. Still today, people lack access to quality services that respond to their needs and respect their rights and dignity. In low, medium, or high-income countries alike, people continue to be subject to wide-ranging violations and discrimination, including the use of coercive practices, poor and inhuman conditions, neglect, and in some cases, abuse. The Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities recognizes the imperative to undertake major reforms to protect and promote human rights and mental health. This is echoed in the Sustainable Development Goals, which call for the promotion of mental health and well-being with human rights at its core, and also echoed in the United Nations Political Declaration on Universal Health Coverage. If there was ever a time to build and scale up robust, rights-based mental health services, it is now. Everywhere, countries need mental health services that adhere to the human rights principles outlined in the Convention on the rights of persons with disabilities, including the fundamental rights to equality, non-discrimination, freedom from coercion, violence and abuse, full and effective participation and inclusion in society, and respect for people's inherent dignity and individual autonomy. In order to respond to this situation, WHO has been accelerating the implementation of its Quality Rights Initiative, which is tackling rights, equity, recovery and social inclusion at several different levels, through capacity building, through promoting rights-based services, and through supporting rights-based policy and law reforms. Each level of the system must be grounded in a human rights-based approach. Through the WHO's Quality Rights Initiative, critical tools, materials and approaches have been developed to support countries to make this happen. For example, training and guidance materials are available to all countries, providing knowledge and skills on how to translate human rights principles into concrete mental health practices on the ground. Quality rights service assessment and transformation toolkits enable countries to assess and improve their existing services in line with human rights and quality standards. And guidance on establishing and scaling up mental health services respectful of rights is also now available, having been recently launched in June this year. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. Not only did the event garner an audience of around 7,000 people, but discussions, webinars and dissemination around this new publication continues unabated amongst national stakeholders from around the world, a testament to the huge need and appetite for guidance on person-centered rights-based mental health services in countries. And let me take this opportunity to thank the World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation for all their support and collaboration with the WHO in making this launch event a success, and for their ongoing dissemination of this new guidance for countries. What is critical to know is that all these quality rights guidance tools and materials are not sitting on the shelf, which, as we know, happens way too often. 23 countries have already embarked on quality rights actions on a grand scale, and this number continues to grow. Ghana, an early adopter of this WHO initiative, currently has nearly 34,000 people enrolled on the Quality Rights e-training platform, and already 16,900 people have completed the course and been awarded the WHO certificate. 627 stakeholders across Ghana have also received intensive face-to-face quality rights training on mental health, human rights and recovery issues, with more of such trainings on the horizon. In addition, 8 of the major mental health facilities in Ghana have undergone quality rights assessments and have gone on to develop service transformation plans to address the human rights gaps identified during the assessment phase. These facilities are now in the process of implementing these transformation plans. These efforts in Ghana are already bearing their fruit, with attitude and practice change towards human rights-based approaches in mental health being seen on a major scale in the country. So, where to next? Countries signing up to quality rights will be supported to implement the many tools already developed, to increase the numbers of people knowledgeable and practicing rights-based approaches in mental health, to strengthen advocacy for a rights-based approach, and to transform services into rights-based holistic services that eliminate coercive practices, that respect the legal capacity of persons with mental health conditions, and that promote community inclusion. Over the course of the next months, we will also be developing new guidance to support countries to align their policies and laws with current international human rights standards. This work has already started. The policy guidance in particular will address head-on many issues that have been neglected for way too long, including the social and structural determinants of mental health and the needs of marginalized populations. It will also respond to new and emerging issues such as COVID-19 and mental health, climate change and digital technologies, amongst others. I'm also pleased to announce that the Quality Rights e-training on advancing mental health, eliminating stigma and promoting inclusion will be launched worldwide in the early months of 2022. This means that the training will be made available to all people in all countries who wish to understand and practice mental health from a recovery and rights-based perspective. In doing so, we will have the opportunity to change stigmatizing mindsets, attitudes, and practices on a wide scale, reaching tens of thousands of people and setting the foundation for profound and sustainable reform. We invite WAPR and its membership to join the World Health Organization in promoting the e-training and associated campaign widely through all its networks. With sufficient investment to change mindsets in mental health and to put in place robust mental health policies, laws, and systems which respect rights, we can make sure that people in countries everywhere are able to access services that meet their needs and support their recovery. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Michelle, for your sharing. COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 pandemic, the enemy which holds all activities all over the world for 2 years nearly. Mental health service was and still in the core of the service during the event, as considerable number of people over the world were and still victims under stress of the epidemic. Dr. Morali, the president of World Psychiatric Psychosocial Rehabilitation, will share us today in his presentation about that event. Dr. Morali is the senior professor and the head of Department of Psychiatry in Ramaya Medical College. He is a membership in professional bodies, and actually at present he is the president of the World Association of Psychosocial Rehabilitation. He will share us today by talk about equity in mental health in times of pandemic, challenge for mental health professionals. Please show me to welcome Dr. Morali for his talk.
It's been
Thank you very much. Distinguished dignitaries on the dais and all colleagues who have agreed to come for this conference. I thank the organizers for an opportunity like this in Abu Dhabi. Today is a great day for WAPR and the team in Abu Dhabi for organizing this World Congress of the World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation in this very difficult times. The team deserves special congratulations under the conference chair of Dr. Mehta in association with SEHA. This is the first Congress being done in a hybrid way for the WAPR. As a current president of the WAPR, I am happy to welcome all of you to this excellent scientific feast to Abu Dhabi. I'm sorry that physically we are missing it, but our President-elect Gabriela Roca is available there. Now, let us go to the keynote speech. At the outset, I would like to dedicate this keynote speech to one of the past founder members of the World Association for Psychosocial Rehabilitation in Leon, Professor Dr. Sharada Menon M., who passed away on 6th of December in her house, surrounded by people at the age of 98. She was sharp even in the previous week. She was talking about rehabilitation, how WAPR is going around. Now, let us look at this. I do not have any thing to declare. What is equity? Equity, when everyone in the community has the necessary knowledge, skills, and sources to achieve and maintain health and well-being, we will have the health equity. It's having the right services provided in the right ways and the right places. Now, what we find is that currently we are in an unequal world in terms of healthcare, economic, educational, and all other developmental areas. One latest example is the corona vaccine. All of us know about the mental health area, as a treatment gap is varied in different countries and different continents, and rich and poor divide is very, very well known. Let us see what happens in the coronavirus. Everybody knows what all things are happening with the thing. After December 2019, 31st, nobody realized that it is going to be of this magnitude, and it is a rapid spread. Whole world got unaware. Treatment, prevention, and public health management got affected. Hospital beds and essential life supports were in short supply. Unequal distribution of health services. And this unequal distribution is a very, very significant issue, which has caused a lot of deaths. Restrictions on movement. Health systems are overwhelmed. Regular health services disrupted. Government controls and rights violation, poverty, all this came into the existence, which we never ever thought that this was evident. Unequal distribution of wealth is one of the significant things, which also has been highlighted by the unequal report, which has come 2 days back, saying that rich has become richer and poor has become poorer. Emerging mental health issues, new issues came up as a result of this pandemics. Then disruption of mental health services across the world. There is no need to actually look at studies from one country or the other country. Almost all the places are similar. Within the country, districts, villages, and houses, movement are restricted. I'm talking about even the quarantine in the house, where individuals could move with a lot of restrictions. And which was a very new experience for majority of the people across the world. International travel restrictions, which were very, very stringent to start with, and slowly they started opening up. Isolation and quarantine, and violators of these were punished, and fear of pandemic, issues related to hygiene, which has gone very high to the extent that some of the people developed probably an obsessive need to keep their hands clean. Closure of institutions. Schools, colleges, hospitals, lot of facilities got closed down, and hospitals were actually closed down for regular services, not for corona. And you find that infodemics, both true and fake, there is a knowledge coming every day. And the amount of scientific articles now it has come up is very, very huge. And you can look at the Lancet repository of the COVID articles, which are freely accessible to anybody. Reliance on social media. People started relying on this. Now, let us look at the innovations which has happened during this pandemic period. Of course, Professor Okasa had covered a lot of issues in this. I just touch it upon. Online programs across the schools and colleges, and teaching and communication, everything has come. Even the conferences have become online. Social media usage has increased. Rules for teleconsultations and treatment has been established by various countries. And this is something very, very significant. Either the medical council or the government has issued various rules for this. In India, we have a set of guidelines given by the National Medical Commission. And work from home has become a norm for a lot of people. And slowly it is getting more of a hybrid type of a work. The one side is that there is an increase in family ties. At the same time, there is another side of it where there is a domestic violence also has increased. These type of studies are common across. And there is a reduction of expenditure by individual families. And this also has effect on economy. State initiatives for essential supplies to the marginalized were initiated in various countries, but nobody knows actual success of these programs. All resources in the health systems were directed towards COVID care. Beds were full, temporary facilities were set up, funds for other healthcare systems were diverted towards COVID care, and even now that is happening in different countries. And because COVID occurrence is different in different countries, in different timelines and time zones. Marginalized got a poor care or no care. This is where the equity comes. In certain countries, there were oxygen shortage, and all the medical and paramedical staff were utilized for COVID care. That is something very important. And not only all the medical staff, even a lot of other system staff were also diverted towards COVID care, like police and civil services. And state control by pandemic, by promulgating epidemic laws were initiated. It is a necessity. At the same time, there are a lot of side effects of this. Personal and human rights were restricted, difficulty for the poor and marginalized, all cases to be reported to central authorities. Some people did not report, fearing quarantine, unreliable data in certain regions. So these are all important issues, because unless you have a direct data, it is very difficult to predict the future of the pandemic or try to plan public health services. Now, unequal distribution of wealth is something which has been very glaring during this pandemic period. Rich becoming richer, new business models came in, street vendors and daily wage workers were affected, increased unemployment leading to poverty, constructions were stopped, no income for medical care for people who are not covered by insurances, and even in the insurance covered people, there are a lot of difficulties, and increase in minor mental health issues across the world. Studies have shown that 40 to 60% increase in generalized fear of infecting elderly, appearance of anxiety, fear, obsessions, etc. And COVID affected individuals having post-COVID mental health issues. I'm sure Professor Michael Stark has been working on this, long COVID, brain fog, fear of reinfection. So these are some of the issues of people who had developed COVID. Now, regular inpatient and outpatient services in majority of the countries were disrupted. Closure of daycare centers, closure or restriction in residential facilities, medicine distribution failed, teleconsultation came into effect, marginalized got eliminated, computer illiterates got left out, and persons with mental illness who are homeless got a very hard deal. Distribution of mental health services, admission to hospitals were disrupted. For regular admission, only the emergencies were maintained. Slowly, it is coming back in some countries they are finding it difficult, and fear of visiting to the hospitals. Relapses of mental illness, families suffered a lot. They have to maintain the persons in the family. At the same time, there are some patients who are told that I am very happy, I am very free because there is no control over me. I can be at home, nobody is trying to tell me how to do, what to do, or what to take medication at this time, things like that. Uncertainty prevailed across the world. Now, impact of COVID on MENA region. There is a study which has come from the MENA region, which talks about these figures, which I'm not going to go into the detail, as you can look at that. And everything is little on the higher side. And Italian side, thanks to Gabriela Rocca, he has sent some of the information which has restricted access to mental health care. Only urgent psychiatric interventions, compulsory treatments, and consultations for imprisoned people continue. Remote contacts with users have been set up in about 75% of the cases. And we can see that this is the way there's not going to be a new norm. And a lot of face-to-face contact is reduced over the period. This you can see that majority of psychiatric surveys have been affected ultimately. Many health personnel have got infected and many have died. That is a very significant thing, including few of my classmates who passed away, who are in the forefront of helping COVID patients. Now, there is some experience in Germany, which also talks about open special wards for patients who are COVID positive, thanks to Professor Wolfgang Kroll for informing me about some of these issues. And there are less suicides in Bavaria than in the past years. That is something very interesting finding. Now, preparedness, and you cannot be prepared for a pandemic. Preparation starts only after the pandemic sets in. Strengthening of the public health system by increasing human resources from all backgrounds, strengthening of existing infrastructure, redirection of resources towards the need of the pandemic, resource mobilization at local level. Unlike a geographically confined disaster like earthquake or a cyclone, where you can get help from other places, this is a global disaster. So it's going to be very, very difficult to seek help until and unless these people come to a situation where these are under control. Now, I wanted to just say that, quote mainly here, vaccine equity is a challenge of our time. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, Director General of the World Health Organization, and we are failing in it. This is talked about in a UNESCO meeting. There are many vaccines, needs logistics of availability and accessibility. There is a division between haves and the have-nots. And you can see mutations and vaccine efficacy. That is where the worry for everybody across. In India, mentally ill persons were added to the vulnerable list, and all of them got a priority vaccination. Now, when you talk about equity, we cannot go without looking at social determinants of mental disorders. I'll just quickly say that demographic domain, economic domain, neighborhood domain, environmental events, social and cultural domain. Now, it's very, very significant for WAPR when we say that social determinants are very, very important for mental disorders. And this is highlighted by the Sustainable Development Goals by UN. And the whole detailed information is available in Lancet. And who are interested can look at this, because this is something which is going to affect us in the times to come. Because together, communicable diseases, COVID-19 pandemic has become a syndemic, especially in the most vulnerable or excluded groups. Psychological distress is highly sensitive to social inequalities and therefore cannot be entirely medicalized. This also is very, very important and the core of our WAPR philosophy. Now, acute stressors are one level. Now comes poverty is a vital stressor in which a substantial number of threats and unmet needs are converge. These groups require a broader approach to analyze variables associated with mental health and consequently specific approach strategies. One of the significant area is the immigrants and people who are stateless. And these are the main things which you look at it. COVID has revealed the inequalities that already exist worldwide in terms of gender, ethnic or racial origin, socioeconomic status, internal displacement, migratory status. Yet the situation of poverty is the most potent syndemic that undermines mental health in the short and long term. Therefore, public mental health policy must be comprehensive, intersectoral and cross-sectoral, and consider many health-related factors beyond simple individual aspects and health systems. Now, what are the initiatives in India? We have done some public awareness, stigma reduction, social distancing in mental health facilities, personal hygiene. I will show you some pictures. This is one of the mental health awareness program where our Vice President Dr. V.K. Radhakrishnan also was part to that. And now you can look at, there are people who have recovered also over there. And this float which talks about here is that all are done by recovered people. It's a good example of a good recovery model. Look at this, the latest mental health awareness day was observed by providing education in markets where people are not having access towards mental health care. Markets, festival and distribution of materials, and some of the festivals where we did the mental health awareness program. Now, you look at one of these agencies which actually I am very actively involved with, where we were running it, one of our other WPR board members, Dr. Ravi Shankar Rao, chairman. This is a place for residential facility for persons with mental illness who are homeless. We rescue them from the road and keep them in a remote village 260 kilometers away from Bangalore. We run an outpatient facility there, and you can see that when we get the people from the local villages, they are provided social distance, mask is compulsory, and our education for mask in that place was been very, very helpful. And thank God that no individual in our residential facility got infection, even though the whole village was infected. What WAPR can initiate now? One is empowering persons to take control of themselves. This is a right-based, client-centered approach is the most significant. And family has to be taken into confidence. Unfortunately, most of the new law which comes in family doesn't have a role, especially in the Indian context. The new Mental Health Care Act talks about that. But it's important that family has to be part of the whole system. Reduction of stigma is something which WAPR definitely will take up, which is continuing. More effective use of technology in mental health care, which has been found to be quite useful in terms of Professor Akash's talk. And I think it's important that we should also strengthen this. Efforts to reach out to the governments through our network is something which all our members can start doing that, ensuring communities and governments to acknowledge and initiate positive action for right to mental health care as a fundamental right. Now, what is the percentage of money which is being allocated for mental health care? 0.5% of the whole healthcare system across most of the Islamic countries. And higher income countries give that higher income, higher amount for mental health. But distribution is not equitable. Challenges are opportunities for innovations, and we all will witness better methods and coverage in the future. Let us stop this with a very, very, very hopeful future for mental health care, because the pandemic has taught us certain lessons. And in conclusion, I would like to say that it's an unprecedented experience of pandemic in the world, and people have suffered in all ways. Increasing the gap in equity is found, where we have to actually work for it to make it equitable. Health services stretched. Persons with mental health issues were adversely affected, probably the maximum. Their problems have increased. Other marginalized communities are affected. Inequality in vaccinations, accessibility and acceptance. Huge challenges ahead to see that equity is maintained. And this is something I'm sure our next and Gabriel Roca and will have a handful to handle these challenges when the equity is going to be maintained. And these are the references. And I would like to end the presentation saying that there is something equal which has come up across the world. Some amount of equality has come with the masks of solidarity. Thank you very much for the patient listening, and it is a great opportunity and great for WAPR. I wish all the success for this conference, and special thanks to Dr. Mehdad and team for the excellent work which they have done. And once again, I invite all of you to Abu Dhabi to enjoy the program, and all of you people who are through the online, please enjoy the scientific feast. We are having a lot of things to come in the next few days. Thank you very much.